Good afternoon, brothers and sisters. You already know the rest. Uh, Hebrew Israelite brothers, subscribers, etc. Not trying to be lazy in my introduction, even though I look that way. I'm sitting there looking at myself like, wow, like I'm just waking up. Even though I've been up for a little over 2 hours, but hey, you know, uh, that's just how life goes sometimes, I guess. But anywho, let me get right to it. I want to talk about gun control again, and I know in one of my ancient videos, and I say ancient because the technology, 1 HD camera and all that was up to date today. So, but mainly just kind of want to reiterate on the plan and kind of just elaborate a little bit on the necessity of it and also some of the pros and cons of it. So, let's begin. All right, first and foremost, I want to address about, let me see, because there's so many different angles to start from. And as y'all can see, I come naturally and don't come with a teleprompter or some scripted cue cards, to read from. But I don't want to start about, okay, guns buyback. I'll start with that program. They got some buyback programs that they have mentioned as far as in certain cities trying to take guns off the street. Well, the buyback program where people have bought, well, legally and some people stole majority, but I'm gonna get to that in a sec. But if people sold their guns, they're gonna end up trying to buy their guns back or their same kind of gun back because now guns are actually more needed in the times we're in because you have so many people that's purchasing stolen weapons off the street. I've seen countless news broadcasts where people have stolen guns from pawn shops. In some cases, one from a squad car. I mean, even a precinct with stolen guns. I think that the start of gun control needs to start with holding precincts and pawn shops, people who distribute guns, who sell them, ought to be held more accountable. It's like you know the type of merchandise you're dealing with. You know what this merchandise can do to people. And those people need to be more responsible and held accountable. So if guns get lost or stolen from a precinct or pawn shop, then the owners and the employees that work there, they ought to have some strict punishments. How could you let this happen? You know, the NRA ought to have like the ATF, and I hate things popping up in front of my screen here. So y'all can probably see me, but I can't see you. So, all right, there we go. It's like, hey, get all this stuff out my face. But the ATF needs to, and the NIA needs to have some sort of program to be able to monitor pawn shops. Because I know they got to have it as a FFL license, a federal firearm license, in order to sell. So their license ought to be revoked if they can't have better responsibility in keeping hold of their merchandise. So that's where the start needs to be, is the source of where the guns come from. Where are they coming from? Like, how do these criminals out on the street or people get access to them? So at gun range, at the pawn shop, at the precinct, those who have possession, and mainly the ones who are able to sell them, but even at precincts, even because they don't sell them or whatnot. Wherever they have access to, those rooms where firearms or rifles are kept, have strong restrictions on them and strong prohibitants on them as far as having access to them. And only people can, with high clearance, can have access as far as precincts or whatnot. That way, it was it you, or you? Which one? What are you? If it's like one or two people that's over it, then those one or two will be held accountable. So that's where the start needs to come. So the government always say, "Oh, gun control, gun control." Hold pawn shops accountable, precincts, you know, wherever they are kept or wherever they are sold. Have the ATF or the NIA inspect them. And if the pawn shop has multiple break-ins where weapons are steady getting taken, then their license to sell ought to be revoked. The FFL license. So it ought to be revoked. It's like, okay, you are not responsible in keeping hold of your merchandise. This is the second break-in, because every time you get a report from the police, the break-in, the report ought to go to the FBI, of course. It goes and ought to go to the ATF and go into the NIA, where they can be aware to see of what's going on. It's like, hey, this a multiple break-in the same pawn shop. You would think they would have learned the first time. It's just like having C4 or grenades, selling it at a shop, and you allowing it to get broke into, getting access to the public, people who are irresponsible, who might finna go do some sort of genocide, with those type of weapons. That's where it needs to start. Number two, the people, the general public. I already spoke this in Vegas Gun Control and Kanika. If you are unemployed for 6 months, or at least 3 months, but if you are unemployed for at least 3 months, you cannot have access to buy a weapon. Cannot buy a weapon. May say, hey, that's unfair, even if your record is clean. If a person does not have a work history, they should not be allowed to buy a weapon. You got 21-year-olds, as soon as they reach that legal age to buy a gun, they might go sell dope or whatever, get access to enough money to get a firearm. They don't plan on working. They don't plan on trying to be any sort of productive citizen. This 21-year-old who has a clean record might look at that as a hustle and go and buy guns and sell them on the street. He might scratch the serial number off the guns that he bought and selling them. So that way, if any of his partners or buddies or customers or whoever go out and kill or do rob or burglarize, he gonna keep reporting them stolen. See, the FBI ought to look into stuff like that. It's like every time this person buys a gun, it end up reported stolen. They ought to put the pieces together and be like, every single time you buy a gun, it's getting stolen all of a sudden? That means that he's selling them. Buy them, scratch the serial number, sell them. Oh, this guy stole, this guy stole. They ought to look into that. I promise, if they do these tactics, it would make gun crime go down tremendously, because you cutting off all the loose ends. So the FBI, okay, it ought to be a limit to how many times your gun can get stolen when it comes to the citizens. 3 times. Third time you reporting your gun got stolen, you cut off. It ought to be a suspension, at least. Some sort of clemency in a sense is a suspension. Okay? You're suspended for up to 2 years without being able to purchase a firearm. A year or two, or at least a year. We're going to put a suspension on your permit. Well, not necessarily on them personally to carry, because that's nothing to do. But a suspension on them being able to buy. So when they run through the state and they trying to buy somewhere, it'll show you on suspension because you lost a firearm 3 times. So we gotta wait till your suspension is up. If people that'll eliminate them guys that got a clean record going to buy guns for their partners that don't have, and this street lingo in a sense, but they partners or buddies that don't have a clean record. That'll eliminate that selling, where they go in and they buy guns and they sell them on the street and scratching a serial number off, because they looking at that as a hustle. So it's like going to the gun shop. It's like going to the weed man in a sense to them. And this is where I get my source. So I'm gonna buy it from them and then I'm gonna go sell it at this price. Well, the same way they do the gun shop. So if they eliminate the selling of guns, even if that person has a clean record and can legally buy, if they unemployed, if it showed they does not have unemployment history, you've been unemployed for 6 months to a year. No, you shouldn't be allowed. And even if they have been employed, it should show they've been employed for at least up to 2 years or longer, consistently, where it showed that they holding on to a job. So it won't look like they just working enough hours or working long enough just to get by so they can't own a gun. So that also should be a stipulation. So a minimum of 2 years of employment and active, and you can't have a huge gap. So like I said, if it's they're unemployed, but it show a history they have been working, but it shows a gap of maybe 3 months. Okay, 3 months. We gonna say that's the searching period where you trying to search, because sometimes it does take, in certain cases, maybe up to 3 months for a person to find a job. So that'll be minimal. Maximum, once it exceeds 3 months, that's when you're going into that not allowed period, that prohibited period, where okay, you starting to exceed the time limit to find a job in order to purchase a firearm. So if it's showing that your employment history is starting to exceed the minimum amount of time you have to find a job, they won't be allowed to buy. So that stops the supplier on the street that has the clean record but not planning on working or hadn't worked anywhere in how long. That eliminates the supplier. The pawn shop or gun shops owners and employees, by being strict punishment on them for mishandling merchandise, for not securing it properly. I said properly, but for not securing it properly, the discipline shall be increased on them. So they should have stricter punishments because of the type of merchandise you're dealing with. You know what this merchandise can do. You know the damage it can cause if it get in the wrong hands. If somebody break into it and steal it. So that's where they should increase their security. Having the cameras, they got the big steel doors, they close the whole shop down, have thick 4-inch glass cases where if somebody finds a way in the shop, that they can sledgehammer or whatever and won't be able to crack it. You know, you want to make it impossible for them to be able to steal them. You do that, I promise it'll go down tremendously. Because they're going to be looking like, man, we cut off at every angle. So even if it's an inside job, at a gun range, at a pawn shop, at a precinct, they know the penalty is going to be max if they're found out to be involved in some sort of smuggling of, in a sense, inside smuggling of guns. They know it's going to be max. They know that they're going to have a major penalty to deal with. So these stipulations in order of gun ownership will make the public more safe, and it also still allow the American citizens to be able to still have access to firearms and rifles. It's just eliminating the middleman and eliminating the illegalization of it by people stealing them out of pawn shops and precincts, etc. So it's eliminate the middleman and the inside man. The middleman, of course, the one like I said got a clean record, a young guy, he don't plan on working, but hey, he gonna hustle me selling guns. So I keep buying guns, scratch the serial number, and report it stolen. Huh, I got another one stolen for me. Oh well, and then go out buy another one and then sell one of his partners. Hey, I'm gonna let this go for this much money. Oh, okay, brand new. You know what I'm saying? Oh, okay. And then make the exchange. Good luck. You didn't get it from me. Go do it again. So gun control, you've been talking about it for the longest. Why don't you consider these ideas? Because taking guns away from the decent people who can own them legally, or trying to prevent decent people to own them legally, that's only giving more leeway to people who choose to be criminals and do wrong. That only gives them leeway. You want to take that leeway away. You want to dismantle that operation and allow abiding citizens who work as well with the FBI, when they run that check and they see this person works. Also, they're not unemployed with a clean record. They also are employed and they are currently working. And they have a work history where they've been working for a while. That right there, that person is less likely to commit any crime. Why? Because they're working. So they can afford to buy a gun or as many guns as they want. But they also don't have to rob anybody or burglarize any home or location for anything because they're working. So if it shows a work history, why not? They're working. They got a clean record in addition to working, versus this person has a clean record but been unemployed for almost a year or probably years. But they got a clean record though. Some don't add up. If I was at the FBI and I saw that, no, I would not approve it. Nope. Well, what's the problem? They got a clean that they're unemployed. Why they been unemployed for this long? Why do they need a firearm and they unemployed? That's what I'm looking at. You unemployed. Why you need a firearm? What you need is a job. What you need is an application. What you need is some income. You don't need a firearm and you unemployed. You need a job. You need some income. And then once you build a certain income, or once you got weekly or bi-weekly or salary, whatever the case, now you need a firearm to protect your income because you are a working class citizen. So now it's understandable of getting a firearm because you work every day. So you work every day and you got protection of a firearm against the bums who choose not to work, who target the working class citizen and figure I just get what I need or want off of them. See, it makes more sense when you employed and want to buy a firearm versus unemployed. Consider it. So NIA, consider this one. It ain't taking away guns, but it is increasing the stipulations. Hold the people in the pawn shops, gun owners accountable. You lose that merchandise, you know what you are dealing with. The same way they are cautious about selling them to people like they're supposed to, the same way you're supposed to be extremely cautious and disciplined in how you secure them. So, something to think about. But I'm going to leave it at that. I just thought I'd share that. Peace be unto you all. Christ for life.